Redditors who cook. What's the biggest no-no thing in cooking? Never pour spices directly into a steaming pot on the stove. The spices will congeal in their containers from the moisture introduced. Instead, put the spices in a separate side container, then add to a steaming pot. You may have just saved me from a long-standing mystery here. Thank you for this. Glass cutting boards. Like seriously. Just GTFO. And in a similar vein. Dangerously dull knives. I've seen some real bludgeons in other people's kitchens. No wonder they hate prep work. I have a small glass cutting board, but I don't actually use it for cutting. It's next to my stove and is my designated I need to set this spoon down area because it's easy to clean. That's all it's good for really. Chef for 10 years. Here's some good things to keep in mind when cooking at home. Clean as you go. It minimizes clutter and mess and makes everything easier. Sharpen your damn knives. Seriously. Dull knives are dangerous as blenders are not just for smoothies. Use them for sauces and your life will be changed. Please stack your fridge appropriately so cross-contamination doesn't happen. Veggies and fruit on top. Also eggs is fine. Beef, fish, poultry, chicken juice will contaminate raw veggies so quick. You don't need a knife block. I'm a chef for a living. I butcher 10-20 ducks a week and I have 6 knives. Even that is just cause I'm very particular. Your average home chef needs 3 at most. A standard length chef knife. A paring knife, which most home chefs never use from what I've seen. And a medium-sized blade for veggies can be nice. Label and date when you open stuff and keep it near the front. Keeping it near the front is most important as it helps encourage you to remember. Ah yes. I have this kale that I should use before you open something else. Olive oil can go bad. Lots of people think it can't, but it can. Canned stuff isn't the worst. Just mix it with fresh stuff. Diversify what ingredients you're using. Most Americans and Europeans cook with the same 20 things. Every time you go to the grocery store, pick up a new ingredient and try it out. Beets, amazing. Like mushrooms? Try oyster mushrooms instead of generic shiitakes. Like onions? Grab a leek. Seriously, change it up. Wading into more professional territory, but try some fermentation. Lots of great stuff out there, but I'd recommend kimchi. If you wanna get serious, buy the Noma Guide to Fermentation and actually read it. Best $30 you'll ever spend. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Serrated knife is also nice if you eat crusty bread. Don't let your baking powder get clumpy. Tiny rocks of baking powder ruin anything you bake. Have done it. Biting into clumps of baking powder sends shivers down my spine. For the love of God, stop mucking about with whatever it is you're cooking. Unless it's something you specifically need to be mixing or stirring constantly. Leave it alone. You'll never get proper color on things if they make more contact with your spatula than your pan. This is how I always mess up pancakes. They are so simple, but for some ungodly reason I have a compulsive need to try to flip them when I know that stuff shouldn't be touched yet. Cutting with a dull knife. Get yourself a sharpener. Even if it's a cheap one. Nah, just get a new knife and save the dull one for the bathroom. Cranking the heat to reduce the cooking time will leave you with a burnt outside and an underdone inside. Can I give you my mother-in-law's number? You don't have to be polite. She is always on the run and never has enough time to cook. Yet always insists on cooking meals that take 3x more time than she has available. So she shortcuts the F out of every meal and they always turn out horribly. Just this weekend the family went to an apple orchard for most of the day and we were going to eat dinner at a nearby friend's house. Instead of doing the logical thing, like planning a dinner that doesn't need to cook all day or hell, something crazy like just ordering pizza, she decides she wants pulled pork. So she throws the pork in the slow cooker and plugs it into a power inverter in their car and then leaves it in there for 5 hours. 1 of which was driving and 4 of which were with it parked in the parking lot, with the ignition turned off and therefore no power to the inverter. Of course, when we got to the friend's house this was all revealed to me. She was saying how the pork didn't cook and trying to figure out how we could quickly cook it. She said she thought it would just run off the battery in the car. Infuriating. I had a roommate once who was doing a recipe with sauteed onions. He was scorching the heck out of them and I told him that his dish would taste a lot better if he cooled the pan a little and did a nice slow caramelization. He told me he didn't care if it tasted good or not. I still don't know how to respond to that. Feeling like it's too hard or being afraid to experiment with stuff. Obviously don't try something totally new when you're cooking for guests, but don't feel like failing means you suck. If you mess up, learn from it and move on. It's not the end of the world. Hardest agree in this thread so far. I can't tell you how many dishes I've made that I had to hate eat because they turned out poorly or bland. But each one teaches you something important if you are willing to learn. My success rate at making new dishes is very high now because of all the failures. Medium rare chicken. Works for steaks, but not for hen. Buffalo Wild Wings seems to think it's okay. Incorrectly storing ingredients. Seriously. You can get ill if you let raw chicken juice drip on your salad in the fridge. Then, cut meat and veg on separate boards. Cross-contamination is such a huge deal in cooking. Like no, you can't cut veg on the same board you just cut a raw steak on. You trying to make everyone sick? Always wear pants while cooking bacon. Or just an apron. Cooking everything on high because you want it done faster. One of the best descriptions of this, I believe, was from Alton Brown. The way he worded it, extremely paraphrased, of course, was to consider time and temperature as if they were ingredients themselves. You can't alter them any more than any other ingredient and expect the result to come out correctly. Do you know my mother? Don't rinse your pasta. Pasta should never, ever be rinsed for a warm dish. The starch in the water is what helps the sauce adhere to your pasta. The only time you should ever rinse your pasta is when you are going to use it in a cold dish like a pasta salad or when you are not going to use it immediately. Everything else I read here seemed like common sense. But I guess I've been doing pasta wrong my whole life. A dull knife. My parents had no idea all of their knives have been dull for the past decade until I sharpened them and they were like, wow, it's like a brand new knife. Not seasoning your chicken. Overcooking chicken too. Or waiting until after the meat is cooked to season it. Do not mix hot cooking oil and cool sink water. I saw a girl burn the hell out of herself because she didn't listen to the home ec teacher. She threw her hot oil in a sink with some cool water running. Boom. Sprayed hot oil all over her arm and neck. Let your oil cool, folks. Just never pour your oil in the sink at all. WTF. It will clog your stuff up so fast. Why are people pouring oil down the sink in the first place? Cooking with extra virgin olive oil over high heat. You sound bitter about this. There is a YouTube channel called Sam the Cooking Guy and he taught me about using avocado oil rather than olive oil. Olive oil and vegetable oil and others have a lower smoke point and can impart flavor into the food when you may not want it. Avocado oil is neutral, adds no flavor, and has a higher smoke point allowing you to sear meat more easily. Learned this the hard way. Don't throw fresh chili peppers into a hot pan unless you want to pepper spray the whole house. Have you ever cooked Indian food? Pepper spray is just part of the experience. Never, and I mean never, panic if you start a fire on accident. You need to be calm enough to know if you have to smother it, oil or grease fires, or grab the extinguisher. Panicking can get your house burned down. My mom fell asleep while making fries and woke up to a house full of smoke. She then threw a polyester blanket over the pot full of burning oil which burned the whole kitchen down. Should have just put a lid on the pot. But now she got a brand new kitchen covered by insurance, lol. Coming anywhere near my non-stick pan with metal. If you scratch my pan I will scratch your soul. My brother is really good about this. And then when he washes a non-stick pan you can hear the scratching from the brush against the pan 2 rooms away. And then he wonders why his non-stick pans only last 6 months or so. Taste as you go. Don't burn garlic. Don't forget to let the ingredients get to know each other. And use a tiny whisk. Mr. Onion. This is Mrs. Tomato. Then you push them together to make it look like they're kissing. The trick is to undercook the onions. Everyone is going to get to know each other in the pot. Microwaving a salad. Of course you don't microwave a salad, you f***. Standing in the kitchen when I'm cooking. Get the F out. Don't get in my way. Especially when they stand directly behind you or they stand there saying how they would have done it. Don't try to catch a dropping knife. Back away and let it fall. I have the slowest reflexes in the world except when it comes to things that should just fall. Knives. Curling iron. A falling knife has no handle. Someone on Reddit. Probably. Not seasoning anything. There is a reason pretty much every recipe including candy and ice cream includes salt, you morons. Still. Don't overdo it either. Plenty of stuff is preloaded with heaps of salt. Making a cake then eating the whole thing right after. Never put oil in the pot when cooking pasta, as the sauce will just slip and slide away instead of sticking to the pasta. Using metal utensils on Teflon-coated cookware. Cooking beef well done. Cooking with unwashed hands. Dull knives. Few things are more dangerous than a dull knife. Also, non-wood cutting boards, among other things, because acrylic cutting boards cause dull knives. Having ketchup as a pasta sauce, instead of making one, which is super easy and a million times tastier. Do not mix citric fruits with milk. Never, and I mean never, stick your dick into a hot saucepan. Don't want the family sauce to become Prego. Guessing at amounts when baking. Baking is science. Cooking is art.